short-lived. Still, some saying that we have technical indicators still pointing to a possible rebound on this market. What's your view on where we're headed?
I mean, it's always nice talking to you, Alishia. Good morning. As you mentioned yesterday, the market was down 0.22%. On a quarter-to-date basis, the market is also down by close to 5%. I think there are three key reasons really why we're seeing a bearish trend in the market. The first is the political risk. Obviously, the elections are just a few months away, so there's some jitters in the system about that. Secondly, there's also the issue of a delayed implementation of the AMCON bill. And then thirdly, there's also some uncertainties over the implementation of new CBN policies on margin lending. But I think it's also very important to point out that it's not all doom and gloom in the horizon. I think some very important positive outlooks are there. We saw last week Friday, the president released the most comprehensive power sector blueprint that we've seen in the last decade. I think that's a positive signal for the macroeconomic environment. Secondly as well, if you look at the valuations of the stocks on the NSE relative to other frontier markets, there's a lot of value out there, whether you're looking at projected PEs, price to book, or forward dividend yields. And then finally, I think it's also very important to point out that the SEC in Nigeria has also taken some very bold steps to clean up the NSE and to make it a lot more transparent for foreign and local investors. So I think overall, over the medium term, as you mentioned, we should still look at some pretty decent uptick in the market.
Well, quite a few pros and cons to consider here. Quite a bit is also hinging, Shuaib, on M&A activity and developments coming to the fore in that regard. We looked at the possible roles Access Bank and Diamond Bank could play in this arena. Skye Bank, though, is another bank that's been surrounded by speculation of its possible engagement in M&A activity. But some saying they're less to do it than Access or a Diamond Bank. What's your view on Skye Bank's position within the M&A space?
I think Skye Bank is probably the largest mid-sized bank in Nigeria today. They've done pretty well through the extremely difficult period over the last year, like we all know. Skye Bank obviously is also looking to raise 15 billion through a targeted capital raising exercise. They're looking at raising the funds from institutional investors and PFAs, pension fund administrators, as well as asset managers. And we believe that that would generally help them to expand their business both locally to other states apart from Lagos, as well as internationally. So overall, we think that Skye Bank is well positioned to take advantage of the M&A activities in the market. CBN had mentioned a few weeks ago that they had received 4 bids for 4 banks in the system. So we think that that should overall be a positive development for some of the mid-sized banks, including Skye Bank.
Of course, adding to this entire speculation is the fact that it announced plans to raise 15 billion to actually shore up its capital base, and that, reinvigorating, as I was saying, the speculation around its possible engagement in M&A activity. How exactly, though, is it looking to raise that capital? Any rumors out there in terms of how it would be looking to raise 15 billion naira?
I mean, what they're doing is they're not really opening up the placement to the general public. What they're looking to do really is a targeted capital raising exercise, like I mentioned earlier. I think what they're looking to do is to quickly raise the money from a few investors, but large-scale investors. And I think that the strategy should be successful. I'm confident that they should raise the capital. Also, as you mentioned, that should help them to shore up their capital base. And once they continue their recovery exercise and reduce their NPLs, that should augur well for Skye Bank in the medium term.
Well, we've been talking about Skye Bank possibly bulking up. On the other end of the continuum here, I mean, do you see this bank possibly scaling back on its operations at all, where, if anything, the financial crisis has taught companies to cut fat?
I mean, there's a lot more caution in terms of their lending activities, as we've seen across all banks in Nigeria, really. But I think that Skye Bank's plan is to continue to be a Pan-African bank. They have some operations in some other African countries, and I expect that they should continue to look to increase that part of their business as well. But obviously, their key focus would be the Nigerian market. They have a big customer base and client base in Lagos. We expect that they should look to increase their client base to other parts of the country as well. And also look to open some international branches once they, raise the additional capital. So I'm confident that they should continue to expand their business operations and perhaps, look at one or two M&A activities once the opportunity arises.
Well, Shuaib, as we kick this trading day off today, what are some of the things you'll be keeping an eye on?
I mean, I'd look at, a number of sectors. In the banking sector, I would say GTB and Skye Bank are always offer investors good value for money. In conglomerates, I would look at, UACN. In food and beverage, I think Flour Mills and Nestle continue to offer long-term value for investors.